There's a difference between those who dream and those who live their dreams. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's consistency, because it doesn't matter how passionate you are for a day, how motivated you feel after a video, or how fired up you get after hearing a great speech. What matters is what you do when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it's just you and that quiet voice inside saying, "Keep going." See, success doesn't show up overnight. It's built, brick by brick, rep by rep, day by day. Every single step, even the smallest one, is shaping who you're becoming. You don't transform by doing something once. You transform by doing it again and again, especially when you don't feel like it. Consistency is the invisible bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Most people want change, but they want it to be easy. They want the body, but they don't want the discipline. They want the confidence, but they don't want to face their fears every single day. They want the success, but they don't want the repetition, the grind, the boring parts that no one talks about. The truth is, consistency isn't glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it's the only path that leads to greatness. Every time you show up, you're not just doing the task, you're shaping your identity. You're proving to yourself, "I'm the kind of person who follows through." That's how self-belief is built. It's not through affirmations or motivation, it's through evidence. Evidence that you can count on yourself. Because when you know you'll show up regardless of how you feel, that's when you become unstoppable. Think about it. Every master was once a beginner who refused to quit. Every leader, every champion, every icon was once ordinary, but they made a decision to stay consistent even when it hurt, even when progress felt invisible. They trained when it was raining, they worked when it was late, they practiced when no one cared, because they understood that consistency compounds. Every small effort stacks up until one day people call it talent, people call it success. But it was never that. It was consistency disguised as persistence, wearing the clothes of discipline. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your consistency. You can dream big all you want, but if your actions don't align daily, those dreams will stay dreams. The real transformation happens when you stop asking, "How long will it take?" and start asking, "How far can I go if I never stop?" That's when life begins to change. When you become consistent, life starts to trust you. Opportunities appear, people notice, momentum builds, and suddenly you realize that the gap between who you are and who you were meant to be is closing. Because consistency doesn't just build habits, it builds character. It teaches patience, resilience, faith in the process. So if you want to become the person you were meant to be, don't chase motivation. Build consistency. Get up every day and do the thing that moves you forward, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it feels like it's not working. Because the truth is, it is working. It's working on you, in you, and through you. The future you're chasing isn't waiting for perfection. It's waiting for persistence. The best version of you is hidden behind the moments you want to give up. And the only way to meet that version is to keep showing up. Day after day, step after step, because consistency is not what you do, it's who you become. It's the foundation of greatness, the rhythm of progress, the heartbeat of transformation. And when you master consistency, you don't just achieve your goals. You become the person you were always meant to be. Consistency is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. It's the connection between your current reality and your future potential. Every person has a vision of who they could become stronger, more confident, more fulfilled. But the path that takes you there isn't a sudden leap, it's a steady climb. Consistency is that climb. It's the discipline to do what matters most, not just when it's convenient or when you feel inspired, but especially when it's uncomfortable, when it's repetitive, when no one else believes it's worth it. Because it's in those moments of quiet persistence that transformation begins to take shape. When you look at anyone who has achieved greatness, it's easy to think they had something you don't. You see their success and assume they were lucky or born with an advantage. But what you don't see are the years of consistent effort that built that foundation. Every great athlete, artist, or entrepreneur didn't get there because they had one massive breakthrough. They got there because they showed up day after day, mastering the fundamentals, improving one step at a time. Consistency was their bridge, and every repeated effort was another plank that connected them to their vision. The truth is, most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they stop. They start with energy, they commit with passion, but the moment results slow down, they lose momentum. They start to believe maybe it's not working, maybe it's not meant for them. That's where the bridge collapses, when the effort ends before the results begin to show. The ones who succeed understand that consistency is not about instant gratification. It's about delayed reward. It's about trusting that every small step forward is still progress, even when it doesn't look like it. Consistency transforms identity. When you do something over and over again, it stops being an action. It becomes part of who you are. When you consistently keep your promises to yourself, you start believing in your own word. You no longer need external validation because you've proven to yourself that you can rely on you. That's powerful. That's how confidence is built. Not through one big achievement, but through a pattern of showing up, keeping faith, and doing the work. You begin to carry yourself differently, think differently, and move through life with quiet certainty because you know your direction is backed by discipline. But consistency isn't easy. It's not exciting every day. There will be mornings when you wake up and don't feel like doing anything. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when effort feels wasted, when your dreams seem too far away to matter. In those moments, you must remind yourself that the bridge you're building doesn't appear all at once. It's laid one action at a time. Missing one day may not seem like a big deal, but miss enough and the bridge weakens. Keep showing up and the bridge strengthens beneath your feet. Consistency is the language of growth. It's the process of proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. It's the act of saying, I won't stop here, I will keep moving forward. It demands patience because real change is slow, but that's what makes it lasting. You can't rush mastery. You can't cheat repetition. The person who embraces consistency learns to fall in love with the process rather than just the outcome. Because they understand that every day they show up, they're not just chasing results. They're building character, resilience, and belief. It's easy to be inspired in short bursts, but it's consistency that separates those who wish from those who become. It's the small, often unseen actions that carry the most weight. Reading when you'd rather scroll, training when you'd rather rest, practicing when no one is watching. Those are the choices that define your future self. Over time, they compound. What seems insignificant today becomes the reason for your breakthrough tomorrow. The person you dream of becoming is already waiting for you, but you can't meet them through hope alone. You meet them by walking the bridge every single day. The version of you on the other side isn't more talented or luckier. They're simply more consistent. They did the work when it was uncomfortable. They believed when no one else did. They didn't need proof to keep going. Their proof was the act of continuing. Consistency doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. You'll fail, you'll fall short, you'll have setbacks, but if you keep showing up, you're still moving forward. Every moment of effort is a step closer to the person you're meant to become. Every disciplined action is another piece of the bridge that connects your present to your purpose. And the more consistent you are, the shorter that distance becomes between who you are now and who you were always meant to be. Small daily actions shape identity and build unstoppable self-belief. It's not the giant leaps that transform your life. It's the quiet, repeated steps that no one else notices. The moments when you choose discipline over distraction, effort over comfort, purpose over procrastination. Every time you take a small action toward your goal, you're not just moving forward. You're rewriting the story you tell yourself about who you are. Because identity is built in the details of what you do consistently, not in what you occasionally attempt. Each small act becomes a vote for the kind of person you want to become, and over time, those votes add up to an unshakable belief in yourself. We often underestimate the power of small actions because they don't deliver instant rewards. You go to the gym once and you don't see results. You read one page and nothing changes. You work on your dream for a week and the world still looks the same. But what you can't see immediately is the internal shift that begins every time you choose to act. The first workout might not transform your body, but it begins to transform your mindset. The first decision to focus instead of scroll begins to shift your sense of control. The first time you say, "I'll do it anyway," when motivation fades, that's when you start to build trust with yourself. And trust is the foundation of self-belief. Self-belief isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's constructed through repetition, through the moments you prove to yourself that you are capable, that you can rely on your own effort. Each time you take a small action, even when you don't feel like it, you reinforce a message to your subconscious. I can count on me. That's how confidence grows, not through words, but through evidence. When your actions align with your intentions day after day, you no longer need to convince yourself that you can succeed. You start to know it. That's the quiet power of consistency in small actions. Every decision, every habit, every small choice is shaping your future identity. When you decide to wake up early and focus on your goals, you're casting a vote for the identity of a disciplined person. When you choose to stay calm instead of reacting, you're casting a vote for the identity of someone in control. When you push through discomfort, you're voting for the identity of someone who is resilient. You might not see the results right away, but your identity is shifting beneath the surface, being sculpted by every small action you take. Over time, the person you used to be fades, and a stronger, more confident version begins to take their place. It's easy to dream big and set massive goals, but it's the small daily disciplines that turn those dreams into reality. Success is not one grand act. It's a series of ordinary decisions executed with extraordinary consistency. The people who achieve greatness don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems, habits, and small actions that move them forward every single day. They know that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often found in the details. The extra hour of focus, the extra rep in the gym, the extra attempt after failure. These are the actions that compound, stacking quietly until one day they create momentum so strong it feels unstoppable. When you build the habit of doing what you said you would do, even in small ways, something shifts inside you. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You begin to move with purpose because you trust your own word. That's how self-belief becomes unshakable. It's not external validation that makes you strong. It's the internal proof that you've built through daily effort. And once you believe in your ability to act consistently, you become unstoppable because you no longer depend on how you feel to decide what to do. You act because that's who you are now. Small actions might feel insignificant, but they're the seeds of massive transformation. Just as a single drop of water can carve stone over time, your repeated choices carve out the person you're becoming. Each time you take a step forward, no matter how small, you're deepening your roots of confidence. You're building resilience, patience, and inner strength. The identity of a confident, powerful individual isn't created in a single moment of success. It's built in the repetition of effort, the willingness to keep showing up, and the refusal to let small steps go unnoticed. When you understand this, you realize that no effort is wasted. Every decision, every habit, every small victory matters. The moments you think are too small to count are the exact moments that define you. Over time, they add up to a foundation so solid that nothing can shake it. And as you continue to act in alignment with your goals, that foundation becomes the core of who you are. A person who believes deeply in their power to create change, to rise higher, and to become unstoppable through the power of small, consistent action. True transformation comes from discipline, not motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It rises and falls with your emotions, with the circumstances around you, with how good or bad life feels in a moment. But discipline is different. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it asks what needs to be done. Motivation may start the fire, but discipline keeps it burning when the excitement fades. It's the force that makes you get up when it's uncomfortable, that drives you to keep going when the results aren't visible, that pushes you to do the hard things even when your mind is searching for excuses. Real change, real growth, real transformation only happen when discipline takes over where motivation stops. There's a moment in every journey where the initial spark of motivation burns out. The gym feels harder, the business feels slower, the dream feels heavier. Most people quit there because they rely on the feeling of being motivated to move forward. But the truth is, transformation doesn't care about feelings. It's built on consistency. Discipline is the muscle that carries you through those dull, unglamorous days. It's showing up when no one notices. It's putting in effort when no one claps. It's choosing to keep your promises to yourself even when the voice in your head whispers that it doesn't matter today. Those are the moments that define you, that shape your character, that separate those who wish from those who become. Motivation is about emotion. Discipline is about decision. When you rely on emotion, your progress depends on how you feel, and your feelings will always fluctuate. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, and other days you'll feel empty, lost, tired. But when you rely on discipline, your progress depends on commitment, and commitment doesn't waver with mood. Discipline says, "I'll do it anyway." It's not exciting, but it's powerful. Because every time you follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you prove to yourself that your will is stronger than your weakness. You begin to build integrity within yourself. You begin to trust your own strength. That's how transformation happens, not in bursts of inspiration, but in moments of quiet determination. The most successful people in any field aren't the ones who are always inspired. They're the ones who act without needing to be. They've learned to detach from the emotion of wanting to and focus on the discipline of doing it anyway. They wake up early not because they feel like it, but because it's part of who they are. They train not because they're excited, but because they've built a standard for themselves. They've learned that transformation is not something that happens overnight. It's a lifelong practice. It's the willingness to endure repetition, to face boredom, to embrace routine until excellence becomes second nature. Discipline is the ultimate form of self-respect. It's the act of honoring your word even when no one else is watching. When you set a goal and commit to it, every time you follow through, you send a powerful message to yourself. You are someone who can be trusted. That kind of belief changes everything. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop needing perfect conditions to take action, because discipline doesn't wait for ideal moments, it creates them. Every time you push through resistance, you grow stronger, more focused, more capable. Transformation isn't about dramatic changes. It's about daily victories that compound over time. There will be days when discipline feels like a burden, when everything in you wants to rest, delay, or walk away. That's when you must remember why you started. You must remind yourself that motivation gave you the vision, but discipline builds the bridge that carries you there. Discipline demands patience because results don't appear instantly, but those who stay the course eventually experience what others only dream about. The moment when effort turns into momentum, and momentum turns into mastery. That's the power of staying true to the process, no matter how long it takes. Transformation doesn't come from wishing things were different. It comes from doing what's necessary even when it's uncomfortable. It comes from showing up again and again until what once felt hard becomes effortless. Discipline trains the mind to push past temporary pain for lasting growth. It teaches you that you are not your feelings, that you can rise above them, that your actions can lead your emotions instead of the other way around. That shift changes everything. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is simple: discipline. The ability to take small, consistent steps even when progress feels invisible. To hold yourself accountable even when no one's keeping score. To keep moving forward when the excitement fades and the grind begins. That's the true test of transformation. Because at the end of the day, motivation might get you started, but only discipline will finish the job. Every master was once a beginner who refused to quit. Every person you look up to, every icon who inspires you, every leader who seems untouchable today, they all started where you are. They didn't begin as experts. They began unsure, unprepared, uncertain of the path ahead. They made mistakes, they stumbled, they failed more times than they succeeded. But what separated them from the rest wasn't perfection, it was persistence. They kept going when others stopped. They believed in the possibility of growth even when progress was invisible. They stayed in the game long enough to earn their mastery through repetition, struggle, and time. In the beginning, everyone starts at level 0. There's no skill, no confidence, no clear direction, just desire. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't the amount of talent they start with. It's the amount of commitment they maintain when things get difficult. The masters you see today face the same doubts, the same fears, the same voices telling them to give up. But they made a decision to keep showing up, no matter how slow it felt, no matter how far the goal seemed. Every single day they pushed a little further, learned a little more, got a little better. That's how greatness is built, not through one massive moment of success, but through 1,000 moments of persistence when no one was watching. People love to celebrate success, but they rarely celebrate the grind that made it possible. They see the final product, the awards, the fame, the recognition, but they don't see the early mornings, the long nights, the countless failures that shaped that person into who they are. Every master has a story of struggle, of rejection, of doubt, but they all share one thing in common: they refuse to stop. They understood that mastery isn't about being the best overnight. It's about getting better every day. Even 1% improvement, compounded over time, creates transformation that looks impossible to the outside world. Refusing to quit is not about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear. Every beginner faces uncertainty, but persistence turns uncertainty into clarity. Each failure becomes a lesson. Each setback becomes a tool. Over time, what once felt impossible begins to feel familiar. The practice that was once awkward becomes instinctive. The challenge that once scared you becomes your strength. That's what happens when you keep going long enough. The struggle that once defined you becomes the foundation that builds you. Every master's journey is filled with moments of doubt. There were days they wanted to give up, moments when it all seemed pointless, times when quitting felt easier. But deep down, something stronger pulled them forward. A vision of who they could become. That vision became their fuel. They didn't rely on perfect circumstances. They relied on their own perseverance. They learned that consistency beats talent when talent stops trying. They learned that growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the repetition of discomfort. Refusing to quit means embracing the long game. It means understanding that success isn't linear. There will be highs and lows, wins and losses, breakthroughs and breakdowns. The people who reach mastery are the ones who accept the process as part of the journey. They don't get discouraged by slow progress. They see it as progress nonetheless. They realize that every repetition counts, every failure refines them, every delay strengthens their patience. They don't chase speed, they chase depth. They want to become great not just for a moment, but for life. The truth is, no one starts great. Every musician once played out of tune, every writer once wrote poorly, every speaker once stumbled over words, every athlete once missed every shot. But they kept going, They embraced their early failures as necessary steps toward growth. They didn't take failure as a signal to stop. They took it as feedback to improve. That mindset is what turns a beginner into a master. The belief that mistakes are not setbacks but stepping stones. If you're willing to stay committed when it's hard, when no one applauds, when results take longer than you hoped, you're already on the path to mastery. Because every time you choose to keep going, you're strengthening your resilience. You're proving that your goals matter more than your comfort. You're building the muscle that separates dreamers from achievers, the ability to persist. Every master earned their power by going through the same uncertainty you feel right now. They didn't have a secret formula. They had endurance. Greatness isn't about doing something perfectly. It's about refusing to stop doing it until you improve. Every time you show up, you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. That's what every master understood from the start, that being a beginner is not a weakness. It's the first stage of becoming unstoppable. Consistency turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most again and again until it becomes part of who you are. Most people think greatness comes from massive actions or dramatic breakthroughs. But the truth is that real success is born from the quiet repetition of simple things done well. It's the person who commits to showing up every day, no matter how small the step, who ends up creating something remarkable over time, because consistency compounds. It takes something ordinary and transforms it into something powerful through the steady force of persistence. You don't need to be the fastest, the strongest, or the most talented to achieve greatness. You just need to be the one who refuses to stop. Ordinary effort, when repeated with intention, begins to take on extraordinary power. The small actions you take every day may seem insignificant at first, but when you add them up over months and years, they become unstoppable momentum. That's how people who seem average end up achieving what others call impossible. They simply stayed consistent long enough for their work to multiply in impact. Consistency is the silent architect of transformation. It doesn't make noise, it doesn't demand attention, but it builds strength layer by layer. The person who practices their craft daily, even for a few minutes, ends up surpassing those who only work when they feel inspired. Because inspiration fades, but consistency endures. You don't see results right away because consistency works beneath the surface, developing skill, sharpening focus, and strengthening belief. It's like planting seeds. You don't see growth the next day, but deep below the surface, roots are forming, foundations are being built. Eventually, what was once invisible becomes undeniable. When you stay consistent, you activate the power of momentum. The more you do something, the easier it becomes to keep doing it. Every repeated action reduces resistance. What was once difficult becomes natural, and what once required willpower becomes automatic. That's how consistency turns effort into mastery. It transforms struggle into rhythm. Every day you show up, you're not just putting in work. You're reinforcing the belief that you're capable of more. You're proving that ordinary actions, when done repeatedly, create extraordinary strength. The problem is most people quit before the magic happens. They put in effort for a short while, don't see results fast enough, and give up. They don't realize that the compounding effect of consistency takes time to reveal itself. The beginning always feels slow because progress is happening internally before it shows externally. The discipline you build, the habits you form, the resilience you develop, all of that is preparing you for the visible breakthrough that comes later. Consistency demands patience, but patience always pays off. The ones who stay the course, who keep showing up even when it's hard, are the ones who eventually experience the reward that others gave up on too soon. There's something powerful about knowing that your effort counts, even when no one notices. Every day you commit, you're adding another brick to the foundation of your success. One workout doesn't make you fit. One study session doesn't make you an expert. One act of kindness doesn't change the world. But repeated over time, they create transformation. Ordinary effort becomes extraordinary through repetition. That's the secret most people overlook. The extraordinary isn't about talent, it's about endurance. Consistency also builds credibility with yourself. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the identity of someone who can be trusted to keep going. That self-trust is what fuels long-term success. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on momentum. You no longer need external validation because your own actions give you proof of your strength. And when you trust yourself, your confidence grows, your actions become bolder, and your results begin to multiply. The truth is, extraordinary results are rarely the product of one massive effort. They are the result of hundreds of small efforts that compound into something powerful. Just as drops of water can carve through rock over time, your consistent actions carve a path towards success. The effect may seem invisible at first, but eventually it becomes unstoppable. People will look at your achievements and call it luck, but you'll know it wasn't luck. It was consistency. When you decide to stay consistent, you take control of your growth. You realize that you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be persistent. The smallest progress, repeated consistently, will always outperform the biggest effort done occasionally. It's not about intensity, it's about longevity. Because when you keep showing up day after day, the ordinary actions that once seemed small begin to stack into something extraordinary. That's how consistency transforms effort into achievement, potential into performance, and dreams into reality.